Agent Romanov. You miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Film Artsy. I'm your guy, Trevor Baker, and today we're going to be talking about episode 2 in the Loki series. This episode does not hold back any punches, and it was a wild ride from start to finish. Didn't want it to end, but unfortunately we have to wait till next week for another episode. If you don't want spoilers, you need to hop off right now, go watch it, then come back here so you can talk with us about all the things we saw in episode 2. We're gonna break it down, highlight some Easter eggs we found, so let's get started. At a Renaissance fair around 1985, where we do find our new variant, Bad Loki, taking on some TVA Minutemen. And the Minutemen it does not go well. And for the first time, the variant Loki not only takes the reset charges, which seems to be the MO of this time variant, the variant Loki takes a soldier as well hostage, which is abnormal for what he's done in the past. One thing I liked about this is I Need a Hero was playing in the background, and I love that song. It's like Shrek 2 vibes all again. I know that song's not from Shrek 2, but you know, it's just fun to hear it. And it was in such a sinister way. But that's how our episode kicks off. The title sequence comes across, and then we got them talking about what just took place, and they're discussing that this Loki variant can be any type of Loki. This is critical, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because we learned some more in the episode, but basically the variants are not two and the same. So this is different than Nexus Beings, where Nexus Beings are the same in all different timelines. The variants can be different, to have different powers, have different forms in each timeline, basically insinuating that this Loki is not necessarily Tom Hiddleston Loki. So it's a good question, and this episode kind of answers it, is why would Loki help the TVA? It does seem kind of odd, abnormal, besides him seeing that he's so small and that they're so powerful. Like, what would motivate him? And early in the episode we learned that Mobius is saying if you do a good job and help us catch this variant, you might indeed get to meet the Timekeepers. Now, Loki is very interested in this, and it's not entirely revealed why per se, because he even has a spiel at the end here where I don't necessarily believe what he's saying is true about his true motives of trying to meet the Timekeepers. I also think it might be some way of trying to keep his existence. So we'll see, but that's kind of the dangling carrot here. Mobius like, yeah, I was fine. Maybe you meet the Timekeepers, maybe you work something out. And Loki's like, that is at least interesting. Mobius and Loki and the Minutemen head to 1985 Renaissance Fair to check out what took place. And Loki tries to trick them into thinking that something else is happening, and Mobius does not buy it. He wastes time, and really they don't succeed in anything here besides realizing that Loki's not exactly 100% clean cut, gonna serve them with no problems. Once they get back to TVA, Ravonna and Mobius start talking about Loki and the risks that he's taking bringing him on the team. Mobius is trying to communicate to Ravonna like, hey, we've been trying to get this variant, and the only way he thinks possible is that if we get to know another Loki variant really well, perhaps to help us find this variant. Once again, Ravonna, I do think it's going to play a bigger role, and she seems to know more about what's going on than she's communicating, and now I didn't really have this in the first episode, and I heard some people talk about it. I'm a little skeptical about exactly how the TVA operates and came to be. I didn't think that initially, and then all these people kept asking questions. I was like, are the Timekeepers real? How did this TVA happen? And it's just interesting. It's interesting. After Ravonna and Mobius' little spat in her office, Mobius and Loki meet up again, and he's clearly frustrated at Loki. He's like, dude, I've given you a chance. And I think he's also frustrated himself because he tends to believe that people are good, that Loki is good, and that he is willing to help in this situation. And Loki clearly just showed in the first mission that they had that was not the case, and they didn't accomplish anything, and it got Mobius in trouble. So Mobius trying to give Loki an opportunity to once again prove himself so he doesn't vaporize him and say, well, you're of no use to us. He lets Loki start looking over all the case files of what this time variant has done, with the hopes that, hey, you are Loki, and maybe you'll see Loki things in these files. And he does. He figures out something. Now, it's not something that I totally readily understand, but I get the general gist, is that the Loki variant is hiding in apocalypses. And you're like, what? What does that mean? Well, what Loki just explains to Mobius is that if you're a time variant traveling time, which this variant is, and you hide in a place that's about to have an apocalypse, your activity, regardless of what you do, is not going to be caught by the TVA's branching timeline situation. Why? Well, because it's going to be destroyed anyways. So if the timeline of Ragnarok is going to be destroyed and you're right there before Ragnarok, everything you do in Asgard, you break a vase, you kiss someone you're not supposed to kiss, you eat and steal or whatever, and Ragnarok happens, none of those prior events change the outcome. This is why the time variant is able to cover their tracks.
Before we continue our video, I just want to let you guys know that we have a really cool Instagram that updates on a regular basis. So if you like all things Marvel, this is the Instagram for you. So go follow that Film Artsy Instagram right now. You won't regret it, I promise you. Seriously, open Instagram right now and click that follow button. Now back to the video.
Mobius doesn't readily believe Loki's theory, so they go back to Pompeii and try to see if there's a variation in the timeline based off whatever they choose to do right before the volcano explodes. So Mobius is like, oh, let's do some really timid, not big deal, walk around. And Loki's like, no, he runs up, he goes to a go-kart, slaps it open, he's like, free goats! And they realize that everything he did before the volcano exploded didn't catch on the TVA's time-catching system, which is pretty significant. And he's only been there for like a day or two, so that's a pretty big win for not having done much. There's a nice little moment, and this is where my skepticism started to begin, is that Mobius and Loki are talking. Loki's asking him about jet skis and the 1990s, and Mobius loves the 1990s, and Loki's like, have you ever been on a jet ski? And Mobius is like, no. And this dialogue is Loki trying to understand, like, what makes Mobius tick? Not like tick, like angry, but tick. Like what motivates him? Why do this? Does he really believe all this stuff? It's very common to like a religious conversation, like why do you believe what you believe? And Mobius is like, I believe it's true. And Loki seems skeptical about the order of this TVA and how it all came to be. And Mobius tells him that I believe it's true and that the timekeepers will eventually untangle all variant timelines and make it all order, because existence is chaos. That doesn't necessarily, that seems a little evil, right? Like existence is chaos. The only true peace is complete control and order. And Loki says that. He goes like, well, is it the absence of free will? Is that really, just that we have no freedom at all? And it's like, well, that's an oversimplification. But essentially, it's like, yes, that there is no variation. There is no existence. I think that's why they're going to be good for each other, is that Loki's going to say, but the free will and the existence is what makes life worth living. Anyway, we'll see what happens there, and also whether the timekeepers are truly as good as they seem. They don't seem very good. They eventually think about the items that have been left behind, and they think about the kablooey gum that we see in episode 1, and Mobius goes, oh, what? Okay, I got it. And he quickly goes back to the evidence and realizes that there's a time frame where that gum could be purchased, and they determine Apocalypse as most likely where the variant Loki could potentially be hiding. So they take a team of Minutemen, they all gather up together. There's a little funny scene where Mobius is like, oh, here's your knives, Loki. And the time warrior chick is like, that is not happening. And she's probably right. That was probably a good call. So they identify that it's in 2050 at a supermarket called Roxxcart, and that's where they head. They hop on in there, and man, it is not going well already. Hurricane is coming in, and they storm the store and realize that a lot of people take shelter, and finding this variant is not going to be super easy. They split up, which any good story, people split up, and that always works out. And of course, upon splitting up, Loki gets paired with Security Warrior, that's what I'm going to call her, and she gets possessed by variant Loki. And Loki start having exchanges. Loki is like, hey, why won't you see me? Why don't you want to talk to me? And variant Loki's like, hey, it's nice to meet you, but you're kind of in the way. You're kind of messing things up. Real Loki, our Loki's like, I have a proposition for you. I've been playing the TVA this whole time, and I plan to overthrow the Timekeepers if you're interested. And variant Loki quickly dismisses that, and I honestly don't believe that's necessarily true, or if maybe Loki's thinking it's possible. But they have exchanges, and he's trying to find the real variant Loki, and I was like, are we actually going to see variant Loki? Well, we do. We do. So after a couple exchanges, some fighting, Loki is tossed about, and Variant Loki shows up, pulls back her hood, and it's a girl Loki. It's a girl Loki. And I don't know anything about that. I don't know if that's in the comics. I don't know if that's a thing, but we have a girl Loki. During this little exchange between the Lokis, we have Mobius finding M20, the wayward Minuteman that got taken hostage, and she's just shaking back and forth, going like, it's real, it's real, it's real. And she revealed the location of the TVA, and they're like, what's going on? And then Variant Loki's like, okay, check this out. And all of a sudden, all the reset charges are bombing the Sacred Timeline. You have this TV screen, and there's just branches going everywhere, and Ravonna and the rest of the TVA seems pretty up in arms about what's going on. Things are going really crazy, and Variant Loki, Chick Loki, goes into a little TVA portal, and Loki's looking. Mobius is like, don't go, Loki, don't hop in there. Loki's like, I'm gonna hop in there, and the last thing you see in this episode is Loki hopping through, and that's it. That's how it ends. This episode just really kicked off. I'm not sure exactly what we learned besides we have a girl Loki, not Mephisto. Never gonna be Mephisto, is it? Just gonna always gonna dangle that thing in front of us. Curse you, Disney. Shame on you. Shame on you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this episode. What did you think about Loki episode 2? And if you have any little Easter eggs or things that we missed, drop that in the comments below. We'd love to know. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. We're doing these videos on the daily for you. So if you have any ideas you'd like to see, drop those in the comments as well. And until next time, everybody, thanks for watching.